evening and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jordan Hess. I'm the mayor of the city of Missoula, and I'm delighted to welcome you here. I'm going to turn it right over to Ashley and Brittany. I'm going to turn it right over to Ashley and Brittany with the partnership to get us kicked off. Thanks again for coming.
Welcome everyone. It is so nice to see everyone tonight. My name is Ashley Brittner-Wells. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for Community Planning, Development, and Innovation at the City of Missoula. And we are excited to be launching the Our Missoula project with you all tonight. I just wanted to do a couple housekeeping things before we get started. There's bathrooms at the back left, snacks at the back right. The program should take about an hour and 15 minutes. This is Stella. She is our ASL interpreter tonight. We're very excited to have her. And I will now turn it over to Brittany. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brittany Palmer. I'm the incoming Executive Director of the North Missoula Community Development Corporation, or NMCDC. We are a community advocacy organization and also a community land trust and a member of Common Good Missoula. And Common Good Missoula is partnering with the City of Missoula to host this community kickoff tonight, so thanks for coming. Common Good Missoula is a broad-based community organization focused on building bridges, training community leaders, and making positive change in our community.
Like I said, I just want to reiterate how excited we are to see everybody tonight. We'd like to start the evening by welcoming Thomas McClure from All Nations Health Center to open the evening with good words. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi everybody, how are we doing tonight? Good. My name is Thomas McClure. I represent All Nations Health Center here in Missoula, and I also represent Common Good Missoula, where I'm a part of their strategy team and serve as the co-chair. I was asked to say a few good words, and I said yes, I have just 3. I'm going to render a couple words in Salish, and then we'll get on with the program. Yolem lemch quilin sutin quiliath wasket, yepinchin eslemti quil esia, thukesin quiscaliu, thuquil esunkamok u intuetic, thukestulio. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Your guys' presence here just lets me know that you guys all care. I hope that we can work together to find creative solutions that are accommodating for all Missoulians. And as we move forward, I'd like us to consider, the generations before us that were caretakers, stewards of this land, our generation now, and future generations. It was the great Bob Oakes that said, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work on this policy, so I hope you guys all consider that as we work together. So thank you very much, and let's welcome Mayor Hess back up here.
Thank you, Thomas, for the good words. And thank you all for being here tonight. I want to start by asking you, why are you here? And maybe take a moment to reflect on that. I was thinking about why I'm here and why I care about tonight and why I care about this process. And I think that if we were to write down why all of us are here, the through line with all of our remarks would be that we care about each other and we care about our community. Missoula is the place that it is because we collectively make a commitment to one another, and we reiterate that commitment over and over and over again. And that's what you've done tonight by showing up, is reiterated that you care about this place that we call home. One of the things that makes this place the place that it is, and one of the things that influences how we relate to one another, is our built environment. And it could be small things. Can you talk to your neighbor from your front porch? Can you walk to a coffee shop and meet a friend? And those small day-to-day things enrich our lives and give us purpose. But it can also be big things. Can we live in a community where people can afford to live in a decent home? Do we live in a community where we can be resilient to the impacts of the climate crisis? And all of these things are impacted by our land use code. So zoning, regulations, all of these things are They sound so dull and so dry, and there's so much more than that. It's the language that our city is written in. It is, and language can do beautiful things. Language can be poetic, language can be expressive, and language can be obscene and profane, and code can be the same way. It can be beautiful and it can be ugly. And our code right now is a little bit like the junk drawer in your kitchen or your garage. There are tools in that junk drawer that may be useful, and you might be able to find them if you rummage around, and you might get cut if you rummage around. And what we're doing tonight is having a conversation. What we're doing tonight and over the next several months is having a conversation about how to weed out that tool drawer, that junk drawer, so that we get rid of what we don't need and we have exactly what we need in a way that we can find it so that we can build our community together with those tools. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Mayor Hess. Thank you, Thomas. We are grateful to gather on the homelands of the Bitterroot, Salish, and Kalispé tonight. This community kickoff is exciting. It marks the beginning of the Our Missoula Growth Policy Update and Code Reform Project, and it also marks the beginning of the City of Missoula's partnership on engagement for that project with Common Good Missoula.
We are excited about working on the engagement for this project as a collaboration, and this is the vision for robust and inclusive community engagement and a meaningful partnership that we will continue to explore as this project sort of progresses. And as we'll get into a little bit later, zoning and city planning really does affect all of our daily lives in Missoula, and it's really exciting that an organization like Common Good has been able to partner with the city in this innovative way to make sure that the voices of everyday people are heard throughout this process. So if you're not a member of Common Good Missoula and you're here tonight, we still welcome you as a resident of this community and are really excited to work with all of you.
We want to get started to give you a quick overview of the agenda so you know what to expect for the evening. First, you will hear some personal stories from Missoula residents, which will set the context for this project and why it is important. Then we will explain the Our Missoula project to you, which is a complex multi-year process. You'll be asked for your input and priorities many times throughout the project. Tonight is only the beginning. You will also learn about the growth policy and code and why they are important, and of course, how you can stay involved over the next 2 years. We will lead you through the process to make sure that your voice shapes the outcomes of our project. Your voice matters, and we are grateful you have joined us to kick off this important project. So with that, let's please welcome Ben Brewer, City Planner and Project Manager for Our Missoula, to talk a bit about what the Our Missoula project is. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, everyone. Your participation in this project is so important because, as we've heard, zoning affects every single person in our community. This project is generally based on a need to reconcile two fundamental challenges that we face in Missoula. The first challenge is that the city must deliver on its mission based on policy and strategic planning to promote equitable, sustainable, and quality growth and development. There have been growing community concerns and frustrations about development in the Missoula community. Community members are concerned with the inequitable impacts of development. Developers are frustrated over the lack of regulatory clarity and the length of review times, and city staff and officials struggle with the lack of alignment between regulations and policies on a project-by-project basis. The second fundamental challenge that has led to this project is that Missoula's codes have not kept pace with our policies. So as we're aware, Missoula is experiencing pressures from growth. It's impacted issues of affordable housing and equity, our transportation networks, and the environment, to name just a few. And the city's been busily creating and adopting policies to address those pressures. And many of you who are here today may have participated in or advocated for some of those policy responses. But however, while all this policy gives a clear declaration of our values and our priorities, it doesn't provide us the tools that we need to achieve them. And so a primary goal of this project is to update the development codes to better align with our policies.
Okay, so how did we get here? We recognize the importance of this opportunity to shape the future of Missoula, and we're super excited that all of you have shown up here tonight to learn about this project and how your voice can impact the future of our city. The built environment that all of us interact with on a daily basis has a really long history. And so we're going to invite a few folks to the stage now to help contextualize how we got to where we're at today. So I want to invite to the stage Jacinda Morajo, Aaron Pian, and Ben Brewer is going to come back up.
Heschalu Pesia. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacinda Morajo. I am from Arley, Montana. I am a Bitterroot Salish person, enrolled Confederate Salish and Kootenai tribes. My mom is Melissa Vandenberg Morajo. My dad is the late Dane Morajo. Through both of my parents, I am direct descendants of Grizzly Bear Tracks and Chief Charlo. So, you don't have to clap for that. The Salish and Kalispel people have been connected to Missoula Valley, this area, what we call over by the river in Tla'ai, since time immemorial. We talk about living in this area since when Coyote killed off the giants and made room for people to be here. There's literal archaeological evidence that white people have found that show that we've been here since the Ice Ages, before that, confirming. And it's also confirming what our Coyote stories have been telling non-natives for years, that Glacial Lake Missoula is here, there's evidence, we know this, we've been telling people this, so we've been here. This valley is, thanks Amber, this valley is and always has been important to traditional indigenous life. My Aya always talks about how she and her family would go pick bitterroot where Winco is now, where the old Kmart is. That used to be prime bitterroot prime bitterroot digging area. That was real. She knew that in her life. For the sake of our purpose tonight here, we're going to jump ahead in history to when Missoula was incorporated in 1883, which was also the year the Northern Pacific Railroad came into town.
Thank you, Jacinda. Hi, my name is Erin Pahan. I'm the Director of Community Planning, Development, and Innovation with the City of Missoula. And as we embark on this generational planning project, we want to emphasize that cities are built around the environment, the community, transportation systems, regulations, and policies in our economy. These concepts play a major role in how a city grows and transforms over time. And we want to emphasize these aspects around Missoula's past. Like most Montana towns, Missoula's early growth as a city is clustered around our river, railroads, and job centers, and it also includes farmland beyond the city center. In 1910, the first electric streetcar connected the center of town to developing neighborhoods, the university and Fort Missoula. Development clustered along the streetcar line, which makes sense as this was the primary mode of transportation around the city.
Starting in the 1930s, the automobile became the preferred method of transportation, and Missoula's electric streetcar network was discontinued. And in 1932 also saw the city's first zoning code, which at that time consisted of just 4 simple zoning districts. As cars became the primary method of transportation, homes and developments started reflecting this change, with garages and driveways facing the street, wide roads, and large parking lots becoming the sign of a modern landscape. And the city continued to expand outward. And then moving into the late 90s and early 2000s, Missoula began more robust planning, both at the city and county levels. 39% of the city was built since 1990, and while plans focused on urban growth and infrastructure and parks and open space, growth continued to expand outward during that time.
The ways in which we interact with the environment around us is shaped both by the geography of the 7 valleys that surround Missoula and by colonization of this place by settlers.
The issues of climate change, connectivity, housing, and equity have become significant in recent years. This is the primary focus of our Missoula, and this is precisely why your input is critical to shaping the outcomes of this project. We would like to invite Amber Schaefer, a community member and organizer for All Nations Health Center, to the stage to tell a story. Welcome, Amber.
Hello. When my dad's family moved to the north side in the early 1960s, it was a blue-collar neighborhood. Providers walked to their jobs, whether it be at the sawmill, the railroad, or the creamery, just to name a few. Kids walked to and from school. My dad likes to remind us he walked all the way to Hellgate High regularly. And homemakers walked to shop at one of the 3 neighborhood groceries. My grandparents owned one of those 3 neighborhood groceries, Shaver's Market, on the corner of North 4th and Warden Avenue. My dad is the oldest of 13 siblings, so I have had the opportunity to hear many stories over the years from my aunts and uncles describing a childhood, running the neighborhood, walking to school, and playing sports that I can only relate to the movie The Sandlot. When my dad and I moved to the north side when I was in the 5th grade, I experienced some of this myself. My new friends invited me to the local park, and we spent most nights playing, or for myself, learning how to play basketball. I forged lifelong friendships on those courts. I was happy as an adult to move back to the neighborhood with the opportunity for my own children to have some of those same experiences. Our boys enjoyed walking to and from school at Lowell and going to the park most days afterwards, although more often they spent their time Pokemon hunting and not playing basketball. However, on the evening of April 5th, 2021, I got the knock at my door that no parent wants to get. A police officer let me know that my 10-year-old son Noah had been hit by a car while using the crosswalk outside his school. The incident occurred just before 5 p.m., and anyone familiar with the West Side and North Side neighborhood knows the traffic nightmare that is the Phillips and Scott intersection at that time. Outside the school, there are 2 crosswalks, and a car was stopped in between the 2, creating a blind spot for the oncoming driver. Although the driver was only going 10 miles per hour, Noah was thrown over 20 feet. He was thankfully wearing a helmet, and we were able to leave the hospital after only 1 night with just a concussion and some very intense road rash. He was just a kid hanging out with his friends at the park after school, and it could have cost him his life. Since then, each time I drive north on the Scott Street overpass and see all the developments being built, I can't help but think of all the kids in the neighborhood. It's great to see how many students enjoy walking and biking to school, but at what risk to their safety? The North Side has long been one of the neighborhoods facing the burden of constant development with what feels like little infrastructural foresight or neighborhood input. I'm happy to see more affordable housing come to Missoula to ensure friends and family can continue to stay in this beautiful valley. I simply want a voice at that table to decide what our neighborhood looks like in 10, 20, 30 years now, not only for my children, but my grandchildren.
Thank you, Amber for sharing that story with us. As a mother, I can only imagine how terrifying that moment was. Amber's story brings up some concerns that are felt by many in our community, that the livability and the safety of their neighborhood is under pressure from the amount and pace of change and development. On top of that, growth in some neighborhoods is simply happening faster than it is in others. That growth and its impacts are not being experienced equitably across our community. This is a real concern that we hear about often in Missoula. And simply, this is a key factor that is driving this project. We'll address this challenge by updating our growth policy.
So what is this growth policy? This is a foundational document that cities in Montana use to set the vision for the community's growth. The current growth policy was adopted in 2015, and given all of the change that's happened since then, we're due for an update.
Missoula is experiencing a variety of challenges and pressing issues, such as rising housing costs, housing supply not keeping up with demand, limited land to expand into, worsening effects of climate change, and inequitable impacts of growth. The growth policy update is an opportunity to refocus it in a way that best tackles the city's current challenges.
So the foundational directive of the current growth policy is to focus inward, which is something you've probably heard about and something we'll be talking about a lot as this project moves ahead. Essentially, focus inward encourages new growth in areas with existing infrastructure, with existing neighborhoods, and existing public services to preserve the open space around us. The current growth policy document is organized into 6 elements. Those are livability, safety, safety and wellness, economic health, housing, community design, and environmental quality. The other main component of the growth policy is the future land use map, and this map translates the growth policy to geographic areas and places in the city. So for example, if the community wants a coffee shop in an area zoned for residential, it would take the future land use map to be assigned a mixed use land use designation to open up the ability to allow for that. So we have created several other policy documents since the 2015 growth policy, which is a great step towards addressing the challenges that we face as a city. However, we haven't fully updated our code since before we adopted the growth policy in 2015. And so the city's ability to implement these policies has been limited. So we'll get into that in a bit.
So extensive community engagement will really let us know how the community wants to grow and where, and this is what's really going to form the basis of the growth policy. So for example, throw a couple out there for you. Do you want perhaps the empty lot in your neighborhood to be able to be turned into storage units, or maybe a grocery store, or a high-rise apartment building, or maybe some commercial space with apartments above it? Do you want to be able to have backyard chickens, or turn your garage into a mother-in-law unit? Do you want your neighbor to be able to turn their home into a yoga studio but not a dispensary? Or perhaps the other way around, you want the dispensary but not the yoga studio? Or do you just want your neighbor to have a safe place to live? So all of these types of values can be captured in the growth policy. They won't necessarily prescribe what will happen, but they will inform the code, which will in turn dictate what kinds of uses are allowed in which parts of the city.
So then it is our job at the city and in partnership with other organizations and agencies to evaluate what is possible, both technically and legally, and then collaborate with you to create a growth policy that is bold yet achievable. There will be formal engagement opportunities in every single phase. When you have something you want to say, we want to hear it. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me, send a comment through the website, and stay connected to hear about upcoming events.
The City of Missoula and Common Good Missoula are excited to hear from all Missoula community members who want to have a say in how our community grows. And at the end of this presentation, we'll provide more details on how you can stay involved. But everyone is welcome, included, and your involvement is really very much appreciated.
Ultimately, the goal here is to find a way forward based on what the community wants to see for our city's future. There are technical, financial, legal, and political parameters to that, of course, not to mention that the community is made up of many differing opinions. But within these confines, we are committed to moving forward based on our shared community values.
Cool. So at this point, we would love for you to turn to your neighbor and just kind of think through the question, what are you thinking about as Missoula grows, and what are your hopes and dreams for our community? So we've got about 5 minutes, and we will reconvene then.
Just one more minute, everyone. right, that's great, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for that. So, we've talked about the growth policy, but how does that relate to development codes? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what codes are and how they relate back to policy. The development code that we most often talk about is zoning. Yes, you got it. The zoning code includes regulations that determine how land use can be used and developed, and it determines what types of development can be built in different areas of the city and regulates the shape and size of buildings. It answers the question of whether that lot in your neighborhood can be storage units, a high-rise apartment, a small business, or a set of townhomes, or all of those things, or none of those things. Historically, zoning codes were used to separate incompatible uses. For example, to ensure that housing is not developed next door to a loud polluting factory, something like that. Unfortunately, this type of zoning has also created neighborhoods that are fragmented and don't have many neighborhood services like coffee shops or small businesses that you would be able to easily walk or roll to. Also, unfortunately, zoning codes sometimes include outdated and discriminatory rules that can contribute to racial and economic segregation or other social equity issues. But, and more recently, zoning codes are being used as a tool to address those problems and achieve community goals such as affordable housing or a connected neighborhood. So that's why it's important for the city to keep the code up to date with the growth policy and remove unnecessary or harmful rules.
When we talk about development codes, it's often assumed that we're talking about zoning. But in addition to the zoning code, the city has many other regulations that guide the design of streets, open space, utilities, drainage, and other development-related needs. For example, how do driveways connect to the street, and what needs to be done to manage stormwater and runoff? These types of regulations will also be incorporated into the code update, and in fact, the final goal of this project is to produce a Unified Development Code, or UDC, which would bring all of these various codes together so that they're all consistent and synced up with one another.
But how do we know what should go into the code? And what rules should the code have exactly? When it comes down to it, these are big questions, right? This is probably what many of you are interested in hearing about and discussing. That is great, and we look forward to hearing your ideas. Tonight is just the introduction to our Missoula. We still have 5 phases over the next 2 years to work through this together and to land on the specifics for what growth will look like in Missoula moving forward. But it's a big conversation, and it should be grounded in a shared understanding of what our challenges are and how we can address them.
Ultimately, the goal of this project is not just that we recognize our shared challenges, but that we actually identify solutions together and then act on them. And to do this, we'll need to have a collective understanding of the trade-offs and the tough choices that will need to be made as we develop and implement an updated code that truly reflects our policy goals and visions. And so now we know you kind of just did this, but we want you to get back with that person sitting next to you again. And we want to invite you to turn to your neighbor and answer the question, are there ways in which the city or your neighborhood is built or changing that make your life challenging or put additional pressure on your family? Or have there been changes in your neighborhood that have actually made your life better? So we'll take about 5 minutes for this, and we'll see you back on the other side. About 1 more minute.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with each other. It's really fun to see everybody out here chatting and brainstorming together. This is really great. Now we're going to welcome another storyteller. This is Kelly Sellers to talk about the importance of diversifying housing in neighborhoods. Welcome, Kelly.
Hello, my name is Kelly Sellers, and I am a proud and enrolled member of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes and a single disabled mother of 2 sons, one who I'm lucky enough to have in the audience today. I have been disabled for 10 years now, and I have yet to live in an accessible home that meets all of my needs to live a functional life. Even when I owned a home before my divorce, it wasn't accessible to me. Now I am stuck in low-income housing, barely making my rent for an apartment that doesn't meet my needs, or putting food on the table for my kids. The apartment had to be gutted before I moved in due to prior tenants' drug use. They told me no, that they could not make any changes for the apartment for me to have it be accessible, but even a roll-in shower would have been life-changing. I was born and raised here in the lower Rattlesnake, and I too had groups of friends like Amber, where we had an actual club in our neighborhood with about 10 kids meeting every day. My ex and I moved back from Havre because we knew we wanted to raise our kids here. Missoula has a special community, and I wanted that for my kids. There is one accessible unit with 3 bedrooms in my building, but it is filled and does still not have a roll-in shower. It is hard for me to do daily tasks such as the dishes, cooking, laundry. I can't see the top of the stove or if the water's boiling. The burners are in the back, and I've burned myself multiple times and even almost caught my sweatshirt on fire. Moving around is hard as I run into everything, object, or wall around me. I did finally get a ramp, and they do not shovel my property until when they feel like it. So if my kids are late to school and miss the bus, I can't take them myself like every other able-bodied mom. Just go jump in the car and take them, which is really hard for me. And I have to wait until they decide to shovel, sometimes around noon. The handicap parking spots are never ever de-iced or shoveled. My able-bodied neighbor slipped in the handicap spot last winter, and she had to have shoulder and knee surgery. I have also fallen in that same spot. No phone, in the cold, in the dark, no help, stranded. With an accessible home, it would make it possible to care for myself and my children alone. Instead, I have to rely on caregivers, such as my mother, who has given her past 10 years to us, to do my daily tasks as a mom. What if you couldn't cook for your own children? It takes away from my independence that I want to show my boys I am capable of. They've been through so much in their short lives, and we're past ready to strive and survive. I am fearful I will never own my own accessible home. And I am
I'm not alone in this. There is an extensive need for affordable, accessible, integrated housing for both seniors and disabled people. As we all know, one day we will all get old. There should be this kind of housing available in all neighborhoods and walkable, rollable streets, close to services and shopping and accessible transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for sharing your personal story. They help connect us to the issues we'll discuss tonight to our day-to-day experience. It's always useful to ground ourselves in these stories as we dive into the technical ins and outs of the growth policy and development codes. Housing affordability is clearly an important and an urgent issue in Missoula and is a good place to start to explain some of the ways our policies and codes are not helping us or even keeping us from our aspirations. While there are a number of variables that influence the cost and affordability of housing, it is no surprise that certain housing types tend to be more expensive than others.
In cities like Missoula, where the cost of land is very high, a newly built, detached, single-family house is going to be more expensive and less affordable than newly built apartments or townhomes. In order to meet housing needs for all Missoulians, the city would need to encourage the development of a more diverse mix of housing types, which come at different price points, to provide renters and potential homeowners with more options to attain housing that's affordable given their situation and their income level.
The current growth policy has many goals and objectives aimed at providing adequate, affordable places to live at all income levels. However, the current zoning map and land use regulations limit the area where a broad range of housing types can actually be built.
For about 56% of the area of Missoula that's zoned for housing, the zoning code limits the housing type that can be there to a detached single-family home. This means that on the majority of residential land, only one housing type is permitted, and that housing type is usually the least affordable one in terms of new construction.
Additionally, 25% of the area zoned for housing is limited to just two housing types, a detached single-family house or a duplex. This leaves just 18% of the remaining land available for multi-dwelling buildings like apartments or townhomes. It seems fair to question, is this code and map supporting our goal of diverse and affordable housing options?
We also know that there could be negative impacts that result from allowing a wider variety of housing types in all neighborhoods. And there's no easy solution. Our Missoula is a chance to have a community conversation about how we prioritize achieving our housing goals while we also address these potential impacts.
Housing affordability is an issue that continues to affect many Missoula community members, and while the relationship between housing and zoning might be intuitive, zoning can also dictate the ways our community contributes to and is affected by climate change.
So over the last 10 years, our community has shown time and time again that we are concerned about climate change and that we are committed to doing our part to respond to it as best we can. These concerns are reflected in city policy, including the current growth policy, and also the shared city-county climate-ready Missoula plan and the city's recent sustainability lens resolution.
So now we'd like to welcome Caitlin Lewis from Families for a Livable Climate to tell their story. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I work for Families for a Livable Climate, and we work to empower families to take climate action. I am also the founder of Soil Cycle, which I'll talk about, which is a bicycle-powered organic waste collection service, and I've worked for the city as a bicycle ambassador, and I have a lot of experiences on how zoning and community building are directly connected. Over 70% of Missoulians are concerned about climate change, And I believe with reconsidered zoning policies, our Missoula would be more resilient to these surmounting changes because climate affects everything and everyone. Zoning codes can feel really boring and rigid, as we've talked about, but no doubt they're critical to the flow of our city. They tell us where we shop, where we go to school, how and where we ride our bikes, and much, much more. In my work, I've thought a lot about both cycling and waste management zoning. I've spent a lot of time on the city's zoning page. And I love that composting can be a hyper-local way to reduce our greenhouse gases and responsibly manage 2/3 of our household waste. Time and time again, community composting organizations, just like Soil Cycle, all over the nation struggle with outdated zoning policies because there's no flexibility around what is considered solid waste management. So there's these small community organizations that want to reduce waste but struggle to find places to do so. And anytime we solve problems in our own backyards, our neighborhoods, and our cities, we become more resilient. Composting is just one example of that. Urban farming is another. I also own a small farm right off the Milwaukee Bike Trail, and I often think about how biking and walking infrastructure can benefit our city. Flexible zoning focused on biking and walking, businesses and services will support a healthier, cleaner, more pleasant, less stressful Missoula for everyone, free of exhaust and a lot of road danger. Zoning should reflect our current values, and we've been talking about that all night. So focusing on zoning on the neighborhood level could allow us to have mini markets, community centers, warming shelters, farms, you name it, all in a bikeable, walkable, safe area that all improve our daily lives. So it comes back to the resilience in size. I believe if you give citizens the tools for success, they'll rise to the occasion and build the communities our future needs. So we all know that Missoula is going through some growing pains, but I hope we come out of this transformation as a leader in regenerative development that other cities can use as well. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Caitlin. So the choices we make about where new housing is built and how we get around will impact climate change. Smaller attached housing units consume less energy than larger detached housing, and transportation is the #1 source of carbon emissions. So the more we are able to walk and to bike and the less we need to drive, the fewer greenhouse gases we'll emit.
We are lucky to live in a place abundant with natural beauty and resources. We are accountable to ourselves and to future Missoulians to find ways to interrupt patterns of development that encroach on our cherished natural and open spaces. City policy also says we must not perpetuate patterns of consumption that add to our city's contribution to climate change.
Yeah. Just in the past year, we've witnessed major climate events with the severe storms and flooding across the southwest and south central Montana, as well as a wildfire season that continues to get longer each year. And this trajectory will not change unless we play our part by growing in a more sustainable and resilient way.
It's important to acknowledge that land use is not the only tool needed to effectively address a global phenomenon like climate change. However, there are many viable land use policies and code changes that have a positive impact on climate issues. We can limit the impacts of flooding by developing in flood-prone areas, limiting development in flood-prone areas. We can use the zoning and building code rules to encourage green buildings, which not only use less energy, but also protect residents from the impacts of climate change, particularly poor indoor air quality during smoke season.
So let's talk about a code requirement that impacts climate change that's a little less obvious. The zoning code currently requires that every newly built housing unit will be accompanied by a minimum number of off-street parking spaces.
However, parking requirements can be harmful if the standards require more parking than will be used or needed. Currently, the code requires 1.5 parking spaces per housing unit, yet there are many households in Missoula that only own one vehicle or don't own any vehicles at all. According to the US Census, about 34% of households in Missoula own just one car, and 8% of households don't own any cars at all.
So how do we balance impacts on housing affordability and climate with potential impacts of providing too few parking spaces? These are the types of critical questions that we as a community must wrestle with. Unfortunately, we can't have it all, so we really need to start sorting through our priorities together in order to come to a sense of what we want our ideal community to look like.
Now we will turn to a story about a Missoula community member who uses their car less and chooses to get around town in other ways. Unfortunately, the way our city has developed over time makes it hard to get places any other way but in a car. Kate's story speaks to the need for neighborhoods that are complete communities in themselves and not overly dependent on driving. Welcome, Kate.
How's this? Okay. So hi, I live in Franklin to the Fort, and I do own a car, but it's old, and I only use it to do long distance travel. Almost all the time when I'm traveling in Missoula, I go by bike, and that's in the summer or now in the winter. I like the exercise a lot, and I love being out underneath the open sky, but really, it's even more about a deep-seated ethic for me, thinking about all the ones who will come after us who don't even have a voice yet. So when I bike, I know that I'm making a difference for the future because I'm helping keep our valley air clean, I'm reducing carbon emissions, and I'm reducing climate change, one bike trip at a time. Even in clear, warm weather though, it's really dangerous to bike east from my home to reach my dentist, my doctor, a pharmacy, many retail stores, events on campus, Mount Sentinel, and on and on. Many drivers, you've seen this I know, are oblivious to cyclists. I have to cross 3 major high-volume streets, Russell, Stevens, and Brooks. There are no east-west protected corridors across the city for bikers or pedestrians or wheelchair users. The only controlled crossings are traffic lights at major intersections that are totally designed for high-speed car and truck traffic. So, as an example, it's 2 miles from my house to my dentist along Higgins. You can ride with me on my bike. I travel on Burlington to access a sidewalk along Mount so that I can cross the railroad tracks and then continue over Russell with the light. From there, I head back down to Burlington or Strand because there's so much less traffic on those streets. That means that crossing Stevens and Brooks is scary and hard. It's up to me to find the cuts in the curb, to look for a break in the traffic, to make sure the drivers see me and pay attention to me. I hope that none of them speed up suddenly, are on their phone, or having a bad day. Add rain or winter weather to the recipe, and it's terrifying. Yeah. Drivers are more distracted, visibility is poor, traction is treacherous during the weeks and the months when ice can be anywhere. Many curbs and intersections host deep puddles or ice dams that as a cyclist, oh no, it's right here. But I'm making that decision in a split second with high-speed traffic all around me. So, from November through spring, these factors affect my access to bus stops, my travel on bike or foot anywhere in my neighborhood, not just to the east, but to the north, to the park, to the grocery store, south to the mall and my friends' homes, west to community hospital. And you know this year, nearly all our streets in Franklin to the Fort have been essentially impassable for more than a month for safe bike, rolling, and pedestrian travel. I see, yeah. And it's only December. How many more months of winter do we have, right? So, I'm nearly 70, but humans of any age are incredibly vulnerable when we have to mix with traffic that's motorized as we are biking, walking, or rolling. I'd like to see it change in a big way for me, for my neighbors, for our climate, and for our air quality under our frequent inversions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. So in addition to every Missoulian having access to a decent, affordable home, community members should really have the opportunity to live in a neighborhood that's connected and easy to navigate.
Living in a neighborhood where you can walk or bike to meet your daily needs is essential to a high quality of life. We should all have the option to run an errand, get to an outdoor space, or grab a few groceries without driving across town. Connectivity is not just about convenience. Walkable and bikeable neighborhoods have been linked to improved health outcomes and are critical for sustaining healthy communities.
Yeah. Connectivity is also about destinations. To have a connected neighborhood, you need places to go and meet up with your neighbors inside your neighborhood. Creating more destinations means locating more shops, restaurants, and parks and other services within a short walk of every home.
The current growth policy recognizes the value of walkability and connectivity. The document includes several specific goals and objectives that speak to these values. These are all admirable goals, but how well do the city's development and zoning codes implement these ideas? If they were being implemented, wouldn't more Missoulians be living in walkable, connected neighborhoods?
In order to implement what's in the current growth policy, the zoning regulations must allow for commercial buildings like restaurants, daycares, laundry facilities, and coffee shops to exist in many locations throughout the city. Today, most of these uses are zoned only on major streets, so if you live close to one of those streets, then you benefit. On the other hand, there are huge swaths of Missoula that are zoned only residential. So this element of the code does not prioritize the creation of walkable, connected neighborhoods. We need to ask ourselves, does this zoning map really reflect our priorities today? Does it value walkability and connectivity as highly as we do in our community? So I want you now to imagine what it would be like for you to live in a really connected community where you had everything that you needed within walking or biking or rolling distance from your house. So imagine, something like leaving your house, dropping your kid off at daycare, and grabbing a coffee on your way to work, all while not getting in your car and driving across town. So we want to take another turn to your neighbor for a few minutes, and I want you to ponder the question, like, what would it feel like to be in a connected neighborhood? We'll give you 5 minutes.
right, everybody, one more minute, one more minute. All right, everybody, let's bring it back around. It's great to see these conversations happening, and we're looking forward to hearing what you're talking about as this project moves along. So we're almost there. We're almost there tonight. We hope that these examples, these 3 examples that we heard, gave you a sense for why the growth policy and development codes are important. They affect our daily lives in real, tangible ways, and changing the policy and codes can have profound impacts on issues that we care about. It's also important to recognize the limits of these tools. The development code only applies when something is being built, when it's proposed by a property owner or a developer. It does not require anyone to build or change their property retroactively. For example, the code can't require a property owner to go back and provide affordable housing or to go back and provide a park. So these tools are just one part of the city's approach to meet housing needs. The city also provides financial incentives or builds infrastructure for projects that benefit the community more broadly or fulfill key housing needs. So these tools work together with the development codes. And in many cases, changing the code won't be enough to fully address some issues without these other components.
This is an important project, and so it will necessarily take some time. We are aiming to have a fully updated code by the end of 2024 or early 2025. The timeline for this project will extend over 2.5 years and in 6 phases of community engagement. We are currently in phase 1 and focus on arriving at a common understanding of the project and how you can provide input throughout the process.
Okay, so phase 2, they're up on this board if you haven't noticed yet. Defining the problem. So we will collectively assess and come to an understanding of where Missoula's been in the past, where it is today, and then where we want to be in the future. So in this phase, we'll look into technical issues related to the equity in land use and community character, and we'll kick this phase off early next year. So stay tuned for more information related to phase 2 and how to get involved and engaged at the end of this presentation.
In phase 3, our future scenarios, we will ask you to evaluate different ways Missoula can grow. Our consultants will work with city staff to identify potential growth scenarios, and the city will share these scenarios with you during this phase and ask for your input about how our city should evolve in the future.
Okay, so phase 4 is adoption of this updated growth policy and future land use map. So this is where community members will get to review a draft of policy recommendations to make sure that those are consistent with the input that you've provided in previous phases in the project. This is like a really cool part of this whole process.
In phase 5, development code alternatives, consultants will work with city staff to identify and explore innovative changes to our code, and the city will facilitate a community conversation around the potential changes to the development code. Also pretty cool if you ask me.
Yeah, they're all cool. And in phase 6, the final phase, this is where community members will be asked to review and provide input into the draft code, which will be the implementing tool for Missoula's vision on how we move forward together. So, those are the phases, and we're now moving into a new part of the program for the night. So, we'd now like to welcome Mayor Huss, City Council Vice President Stacey Anderson, and Council President Gwen Jones, CEO of Missoula Economic Partnership Grant Kier, and Health Promotions Director for All Nations Health Center, Thomas McClure, to the stage. And I'm also going to give a warm welcome to Franklin to the Fort Neighbors in Action community organizer, Jenny Mish. So let's welcome all these people to the stage.
Thank you, all of you, for coming tonight. We really want to explicitly acknowledge that it's your leadership that has helped have such a wide variety of people be able to be here and involved in this project at the table together. Mayor Hess, you've seen and heard tonight how folks in Missoula face challenges caused by the current land use and zoning in our city. We've also heard how the Community Planning Office and Common Good Missoula is committed to deeply and equitably engaging people of Missoula in updating our growth policy and reforming our zoning code. Will you commit to supporting this engagement process to the best of your abilities?
I will. One of the strengths, as I said at the outset, one of the strengths of our community is our collective commitment to one another. And we reiterate that over and over again. And my commitment to you is to listen actively, to engage thoughtfully, to show up, and to partner. And I'm inspired by the stories tonight, and I am grateful for all of you being here to make our community a better place.
Great. Missoula City Council President Gwen Jones and Vice President Stacy Anderson, based on what you've seen tonight, will you commit to supporting this process of inclusive participation to the best of your abilities?
Yes, I'm very happy to commit to this process. I'm hoping to hear from many, many Missoulians across all sorts of different sectors of our society, and I've always thought that our built environment and code reform are huge impacts on our quality of life here. So I'm looking forward to getting that input, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people want to preserve our Missoula, how they want to change our Missoula, but mostly how they want to improve our Missoula. So thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks so much. Yes, I am happy to support this process, and I think that the people who have the privilege of living and working here in Missoula are what makes Missoula a truly amazing place to live and work. And by you all showing up tonight and engaging in this process with those here and online and throughout the other avenues, it will just enrich this entire process and really be reflective of what you want to see for going forward in this great community. Thanks.
Wonderful. Yay. Grant Keir, thank you for joining us tonight. We understand that the Missoula Economic Partnership plays an important role in economic growth and development in our city, and is also working to bring a wider variety of folks to the table to think through the issue of growth in Missoula. Will you commit to supporting the inclusive and broad participation in the Our Missoula project?
On behalf of Missoula Economic Partnership, we will commit to this process for sure. I also want to say thank you to Common Good for organizing and bringing so many folks out tonight. I want to thank everyone who shared their stories tonight. And I want to thank everybody who is here, who is not part of any organization, but here because you care about this place. For those of you who don't know Missoula Economic Partnership, and you want to understand the lens through which we will participate in this endeavor, we have 2 documents on our website, missoulapartnership.com, that will help you understand where we're coming from in this process. One is a comprehensive economic development strategy. The other is our strategic plans. I think those define some of the problems and challenges we heard in the stories that we heard tonight. We're excited for your participation and to work together to help solve those in creative, innovative ways. Thank you.
Thomas McClure, Health Promotion Director at the All Nations Health Center and member of Common Good Missoula. Are you committed to supporting this level of engagement and participation in the Our Missoula Growth Policy Update and Code Reform?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to consider the Indigenous perspective as we move forward in the planning and implementing of this project, and we're looking forward to what's to come.
Great. Thank you all for your commitment and support. you all to commit. Yay! It's critical that we, as ordinary residents of Missoula, participate in shaping these policies and reforms. Ashley and Brittany are going to explain exactly how you can do that. Come on back.
Thank you, Jenny. Phase 2 of the project will begin in spring 2023. The way you can stay connected is by signing up for the Our Missoula newsletter at the check-in tables at the entrances and at the Our Missoula website. We have flyers that have QR code to the Our Missoula website, or you can pick up one of our business cards. As a reminder, Phase 2, Defining the Problem, is where we collectively assess and understand where Missoula has been in the past, where it is today, and where it wants to be in the future. The city is Technical difficulty.
We also recognize that for some of you, waiting 2 years sounds like too long, and that there is an urgency to do what we can as soon as possible to fix some of these challenges that we talked about tonight. So as this project moves forward, we're also working to identify more immediate near-term solutions wherever possible. Though we need and want to be careful not to get ahead of the process or misconfirming those solutions with you before acting on anything.
The city is partnering with community groups to engage a wide range of resident input that includes all members of the Missoula community. This event tonight is a great example of that, and we hope that it shows a commitment to this both during this project and in many more projects to come.
Woo! Okay, so on the screen, and I think taped up along the edges here, you'll see a QR code, and we also have volunteers coming around with commitment cards. So our next step is to find out more about the impacts of zoning in your lives and to have an imagination for our community growth policy. So just a couple ways you can sign up to continue being involved. You can attend the Phase 2 public meeting. It's TBD right now, but if you stay connected with us, we'll let you know when and where that is. You can come to what Common Good Missoula calls a house meeting, which can be held at a house or at a public space. You can host a house meeting yourself. You can sign up for the Our Missoula newsletter that gives information about the progress of the project. And you can also join a Common Good Missoula Action Research Team to dive further into how to support affordable and climate-friendly housing, connectivity, and community building with zoning. So now, with your commitment cards, we'll give you about 5 minutes to complete those. And at this time, we want to ask that if you're here with an organization and you want to commit publicly to staying involved, please come forward on behalf of your organization for a roll call so we can see who's in the room with us. Just one representative from each organization, and we'll give folks about 5 minutes to get those cards filled out and to come forward if you're here as an organizational rep. Hopefully we can get some tunes going in the meantime. That works? Wow. Okay. of your rows where someone will pick it up. And I want to just get a hand raise for those of you who are here just as a person, as an individual. If you just individually commit to working on this with us and to staying involved, why don't you raise your hand right now and let's just get a sense of in the room who's down to keep working on this with us. Yay! Awesome. This is going to be a long-term commitment together, so I'm glad to see that. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm here from the North Missoula Community Development Corporation. We're a member organization of the of Common Good Missoula. And we know as an organization and as Common Good Missoula that individuals need to commit to telling their stories and sharing their hopes and dreams for community, but organizations also need to commit as well. So NMCDC, my organization, is committed to attending the Phase 2 public meeting. We're going to host house meetings. We're going to work with the Housing Justice Research Action Team. And we're now going to go through the line of organizational reps. And if you could just briefly say the name of your organization and if you'll commit to continuing on in this process with Common Good Missoula and the City of Missoula. All right, so we'll go down the line quickly.
Hello, I'm Timothy Garrison, and I am with the North Side, West Side Neighborhood Council, and I am the chair of that council. And we are committed going forward in supporting this. Thank you.
I'm Paul Herendeen. I'm representing Clearwater Credit Union. Housing is at the core of so many issues that are important to our members, our co-workers in our community, and we are fully committed to engage with this process.
My name is Father Craig Hightower, and I'm the pastor of St. Francis Xavier Parish and historic St. Ignatius Mission Parish up in St. Ignatius. We're a member organization of Common Good Missoula, and we're committed to Phase 2, be participating with our parishioners, and also we're committed to paying our dues to Common Good Missoula.
My name is Joe Lose. I am a member of First United Methodist Church, and we have a bunch of members that are committed to this process and to our partnership with Common Good Missoula.
Good evening. My name is John Wolverton. I'm a representative of Western Montana Democratic Socialists of America. Our organization is a member of Common Good Missoula, and we are committed to working on this project for fairness and equity and climate mitigation. Thank you all for coming.
Hi, I'm Jenny Mish with Franklin DeFort Neighbors in Action and Franklin DeFort Leadership Team Neighborhood Council. And though both organizations have members who are committed to this process, I'm seeing better neighborhoods for all Missoulians. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Buckingham. I'm with the Community Food and Agriculture Coalition, and we are committed to working with the city and Common Good on this project. Looking forward to it.
Hi, my name is Kathy Scribner. I'm the Director of Family Promise in Missoula. We work with Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, and we're also working alongside the YWCA. We provide, at this point, the only shelter for homeless families with children in Missoula. And yes, we are committed to this process.
Hi again. I also work at United Way of Missoula County, and I have a statement from our CEO, Susan Haypatrick. United Way of Missoula County applauds Common Good's involvement in this project, which will amplify the voices and vision of many neighborhood residents with a deep interest in a just, equitable, climate-resilient community where every Missoulian has the opportunity to thrive. It takes everyone at the table, speaking up and advocating, listening and learning from each other to realize that shared vision. We're glad to support this community building effort.
Hello everyone, my name is Brent Hildebrand. I'm here representing the North Side, West Side crew, which stands for Community Rising for Equity and Well-Being. And we're a group of neighbors looking out for each other and believing in the power of community and neighborhood.
Hello, I'm Caitlin Pazurcia here with Montana chapter of the Sierra Club, and we're committed to moving forward with this process.
Hi, I'm Amy Sillenberg, and I'm here with Climate Smart Missoula. We are a member of Common Good Missoula, and we are excited for this process, thinking about how we stay connected and work on housing and climate mitigation and resiliency.
Hi, I'm Winona Bateman with Families for a Livable Climate, and we are a member of Common Good Missoula. We're very committed to this process because every Montana family needs affordable housing, connected communities, and a stable climate. So we're in it. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Molly Bradford, CEO of Gatherboard, MissoulaEvents.net, and Missoula Indoor Ads. And when Missoula is not thriving, us and our fellow businesses aren't thriving, and we are committed to this process of equity, connectivity, and a climate-smart Missoula.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Davis, Executive Director of Homeward. We're a community housing development organization here in Missoula, and we are committed to this process and working with all of you. Also very interested in getting our residents and those that participate in our classes and our one-on-one counseling to participate in this process, as well as our neighbors that aren't here tonight. So looking forward to that.
Hi, I'm Jen Floyd with Partnership Healthcare Center, and we are committed to this process.
Hi, I'm Mina Dura-Lemaster with the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee, and we are committed to this process.
Hello, my name is Sam Oliver. I'm the incoming Executive Director for the Missoula Housing Authority, and we too are very happy and proud to join you all in this partnership.
Tanshe Chanadeshikanashin. I am founder of the Sakaskusiwak Collective, a BIPOC grassroots movement to help in low-income, disabled folk. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jim. I'm from Welcome Back, and I'm here representing the returning citizens of Missoula County. We are happy at Welcome Back to support this in Common Good Missoula.
Good evening, folks. I'm Sky McGinty, Executive Director of All Nations Health Center here in Missoula, and we commit to continue to work with our non-Native allies to shore up the issues that impact all Missoulians, but especially our BIPOC relatives.
Hi, my name is Will Bates. I'm with Habitat for Humanity, and we are committed to this process to build more, serve more, and be a part of the change Missoula needs.
All right, thank you everybody so much. We need that organizational power, like you turning out people from your organization, and also just individuals showing up to this stuff so that everyday people can really get our voices heard in this process, and that people know what's going on throughout the process. So we're so excited to work with all of you, and there's a variety of ways you can stay in touch with both the City of Missoula and with Common Good Missoula. First of all, you can visit engagemissoula.com or commongoodmissoula.org for updates and to find more information about future events.
You can also reach out to me with any questions or to follow up with schedule a meeting with me. I'd love to meet and chat with you about what you all would like to see from this process, so stay in touch and keep informed. This is not the end, this is just the beginning, and we hope to stay in touch as this project progresses over the next 2 years. If you are interested in a deeper dive into some of what we presented today, we have some amazing visuals in the back of the room. You can meet with our consultant team, Peter, Jamin, and Io, ask questions, get more information. You can stay up to date, like Brittany said, at engagemissoula.com. We look forward to seeing you at the next event in spring 2023. Please rise and stay present for the Salish closing from Thomas McClure. Thank you all.
All right, I'd like to extend a few thanks. First, we'd like to thank the organizers for this event, and that includes Common Good Missoula, the City of Missoula, and others. I'd also like to extend some thanks for the speakers for the evening, for sharing their stories and insight. As you exit, I would like you guys all to think about the neighborhood you live in, and then think about the neighborhoods, opposite of where you live. And let's continue to share those stories. Ironically, December is the storytelling month in Bitterroot Salish culture. So let's, continue to tell those stories in the early stages of this project. And there is no Salish word for goodbye, but I'll leave you guys with this. Nemesh Wiechtemmensen, that means I'll see you later. And let's go from there. Let's keep the momentum up. Thank you.